don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. This is a show by the people, for the people, and you, my friends, are my people. So join in, leave your comments, let us know what you think. It's so much more fun when you participate. Join our community because that's just the way we like it. In today's program, Paige Spiranac is celebrating Masters Week, and I'm kind of disappointed she has a green jacket, to be honest with you. We'll investigate that later in the show. And 1989 Open champion Mark Calcavecchia joins the program to discuss his career and the Masters. He finished second at Augusta in 1988. He shot a 29 on the back nine. He holds the record there at Augusta, so he knows a little bit about this tournament. We'll be talking about that with him. Paige Spiranac has a green jacket of her own, Ron, and I thought that you might like to keep up on the golf news here. Happy Masters Week, says Paige, as she's struggling. The Augusta, they needed to give her a bigger jacket, Ron. I don't know if she's going to be able to button that one.
Yeah, it does seem a little small. Didn't I hear a rumor that we had walked past her when we were there last year? Somebody had said that she was over someplace that we had walked past. I mean, I didn't think somebody said they saw her. I don't
remember that. That's very possible. Of course, I've had the pleasure of meeting Paige. She was on this program during Super Bowl week. A very nice young woman, Paige Spiranac. And Nicholas never looked like that. I will tell you this.
You should do a similar post and see if she puts it on her podcast. And it's like, oh, I talked to this guy at the Super Bowl.
Well, I might have almost as much trouble keeping mine in, Ron. I'm not sure. Speaking of jackets, yeah. Speaking of jackets and fashion statements, take a look at Cam Smith here. Another Open champion, much like Mark Calcavecchia. Cam Smith playing his practice round in a blue blazer there. I don't know. Wouldn't that restrict your
movement?
Wouldn't that restrict your range of motion? I don't know. I mean, they did it in the old days, I guess. Wasn't Bobby Jones out there wearing a jacket back 90 years ago? I mean, maybe you can. You see the pictures of the original golfers, and they were pretty dressed up. So maybe it can.
Was there a significance to this? Why he did it? Or was he just being Cam? Just being Cam?
I have no idea why he did it. No idea why he did it. And Bryson DeChambeau is apologizing, Ron. Bryson DeChambeau, I don't know if you'll remember this or not.
Talking about the course. He disparaged the course.
Several years ago when he was remember when he got all beefed up? Mm-hmm. And he was, he looked like an offensive lineman practically. Yep. And he said, look, Augusta, basically the par fives are par fours to me now. I hit the ball so long. I look at Augusta as a par 67. And then he promptly, finished somewhere in the middle of the pack. And he has struggled some at Augusta. Last year, actually, I think, was his best outing at Augusta during his career. But he's walking that back and saying that, he got a little bit of humble pie. And he says he doesn't regret that he said it because it helped him become who he is now. But he also does regret that he said it because he realizes now that, he looks pretty foolish for saying that.
Yeah. Augusta National is pretty much like Michael Jordan. You do not want to give bulletin board material. Just don't do it.
It'll fuck you up.
Yep.
Son.
Don't give the course more reason to get you.
Here's one for you, Ron. Take a look at the Masters Champions Dinner. It's a time-honored tradition at Augusta National that the champions get together. They have their own locker room, Ron. Mm-hmm. I think this is all part of the mystique. The champions, they locker away from the peasants, and so the champions have dinner together as well. And here you are, the 2025 Champions Dinner, and they're in front You see Scotty Scheffler there, Mickelson right behind him. And as you look around, you will see all of the many familiar faces. There's Tom Watson in the back in the left. And Spieth is back there with him. There's Gary Player on the left in the front. I'm looking for Nicholas. Where's Nicholas? Am I missing Nicholas?
Then he's the.
I can't find Nicholas.
Anyway. Is he two to the left? Is he two to the
My
left?
Eyes aren't good.
Scheffler?
Is he? No, that's not Nicholas. Not sure who that is. Is that Tommy Aaron? Tommy Aaron might still be alive. I'm not sure.
Maybe
Tiger wasn't there either. Are guys blowing off the Masters dinner now?
Well, I assume Tiger's doing PT on his ruptured Achilles, right?
Nicholas is up there in years now. I think Jack is in his mid-80s. So,
yeah, he is.
Somebody that's older, I'm never going to criticize them for not being there because we don't know what they might be dealing with. But pretty cool. A lot of legends there. It was cheeseburgers and chocolate chip cookie skillets, Ron, is what I am told. The champion picks the menu.
Right.
Here's my question for you, Ron.
Ooh.
If you won the Masters, what would you put on the menu for the Ronnie T-shirts Masters dinner the following year?
That's one of those. Wow, I have not had time to prepare for this. I don't know, Ricky. I don't know. Like my favorite food is Italian food. Like I absolutely like that's I love Italian, but then there's other foods that like as abroad I like Italian, but then there's other foods I like better. Like I love Latin foods, but I always joke that if I was on death row, my last meal would be chicken wings. So I don't know, maybe chicken wings.
So there you go. Chicken wings for everybody.
Tots, chicken wings and tater tots.
Ooh.
How about that?
I'm ready for you to win. Not that I would be there eating it, because God knows. I mean, the only thing I know about you and Augusta is that nobody wants a piece of you on a mini golf course. My pleasure to welcome to the program this morning, Mark Calcavecchia. Mark, how are you?
Hey, Ricky, good. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Doing very well. Thrilled to have you on. Want to talk a little Masters with you as we get going here, but take me back to Royal Troon in 1989 when you won the Claret Jug in a playoff against Greg Norman and Wayne Grady. Right. There's so many of us pick up a golf club and play to one degree of bad or another. I've broken 80 4 or 5 times in my life. Those are my credibles, Mark.
That's pretty
and that
good.
Felt pretty good. But what is it like to win in my opinion, as much as I love the Masters, the greatest championship of them all, the Open Championship? What did that mean to you?
Right. It meant a lot then, and it still means a lot. Pretty much every day I look at the Claret Jug. It's sitting right next to my TV, which I spend a lot of time looking at these days. So, it was just a great stretch. It was obviously the highlight of my career and the prime of my career. I'd won 2 tournaments in late 88. And then in 89, I won the Phoenix Open and the LA Open. So, excuse me, I was playing well and confident, young, 29, feeling good. Got over there, and I knew we had a good week of weather, which was kind of nice. The Open, you can get a little bit of everything. So when the weather's nice, you appreciate it. And the first practice round, I loved the golf course. It fit my eye. I played great in the 2 practice rounds, and I was ready to go. And on Thursday, you're not thinking about winning, but as it came down to it, Wayne Grady made a few bogeys in the back 9, and Greg Norman had a great day. And I birdied 16 and 18 to tie Greg, and next thing you knew, we were in a playoff. And I got through that pretty good with 2 birdies, and next thing you know, I'm holding the jug. So very, very, very cool.
When you look at the field, you were saying, Rory and Scotty Scheffler, certainly that they would be the gambling favorites. When you look at Scotty, we said, well, we'll never see anybody like Nicklaus again. And then Tiger comes along, and you saw Tiger up close. And in fact, the first PGA tournament I ever went to was the 1999 Bay Hill Invitational. You were paired with Tiger. I remember being there on that Thursday, and I was all wide-eyed, looking around, oh my gosh, I'm at a PGA event. I'm taking it all in. And I remember distinctly watching you and Tiger on the practice green, and you were paired with him that day. What was it like in that era? You've seen the best of the best. I want to go ahead and ask you this. There are levels to golf. Every club in America has some guy who goes out every day and he's shooting 66s, and local legend, this guy's unbelievable. You can't believe how good this guy is. He probably wouldn't even be able to make it on a satellite tour. And then the guys that are on the satellite tours are better than anybody that I've ever played with in my life, and so on and so forth. Can you explain, two questions here, Mark. Can you explain the difference between a PGA pro, and I don't even necessarily mean at your level, but somebody that's out there that's making cuts, that is, making a living on the PGA Tour. Maybe they've got 2 or 3 career wins. Can you explain the difference between that guy and a regular, unbelievable amateur golfer that obviously is a very talented person, but doesn't have what it takes to be a pro? And then I'll ask you the follow-up afterwards, but the follow-up is can you explain how much better Tiger was than even the best of the best? That's a long question.
We'll start with, as far as getting, what I always call it was getting over the hump. And it's a fine line. And I've played in my early days with a lot of my friends who were every bit as good as I was, or, it would be an even match. One day I'd win, next day he'd win. And he never amounted to anything in pro golf. So it's a fine line, and it's called getting over the hump. And it's a matter of timing, confidence. Something good has to happen at the right time. And how that happens, you just, maybe it's your week with the putter and you make a bunch of putts and you win a tournament, and then all of a sudden you get confident. Confidence is a huge part of it. Got a lot of friends even to this day that I play with, young, really good players that can't quite get over the hump, and they can't figure out what it is. They go play with me at Tequesta Country Club, and they shoot 64, 65 every time. They go play in a tournament at 72 or 73. So it's just it's a tough situation. And I just mentally decided when I was 25 or 26, it's time to go now. And I started working with Peter Costas and got my swing sorted out. So all kinds of things led to that. And then I got confident, and all of a sudden I won my first tournament in 1986, and I was off and running. So that's kind of my story. As far as Tiger goes, I played a lot with him. We both worked with Butch Harmon back then. So I spent a lot of time with Tiger and Butch out in Las Vegas, or in Houston, where Butch was in the early days. And, saw stuff in the late 90s and early 2000s that has never been done in golf. And Tiger's record speaks for itself. But, will he go down as the greatest ever? Well, he's 3 majors short of Jack Nicklaus. If he hadn't had 10 years of nothing but solid injuries, yeah, he would have easily probably won 25 to maybe even 30 majors. But he didn't. And, that's part of the game. Jack stayed healthy, and Jack won his last major at 46. So, but I still think Tiger Woods is probably the greatest player that ever played the game from just a pure greatness standpoint, from what I saw.
Mark, not that I expect him to come anywhere near Nicklaus's 18 or Tiger's 15, but Scottie Scheffler is real impressive. I think the golf that we saw from Scottie last year is probably, in my opinion, the best golf that we've seen anybody play since Tiger's prime.
No question.
I think. What kind of a future do you think Scottie has? Is he a guy that could end up winning 8 or 10 majors if he's able to stay healthy and things go reasonably well for him?
Absolutely. I think so. And you're 100% right. last year was what you would call a very Tiger-esque year of the early 2000s. When Tiger was in his absolute prime, when he was winning 7, 8, 9, 10 times a year. Tiger's won the same tournament like 8 times, like 4 different times. The Memorial, Firestone, San Diego. That's stuff like that's just incredible to me. I won Phoenix 3 times, and I thought that was pretty impressive. But to win the same tournament 8 or 9 times is crazy. So, it's Scotty's awesome. He's definitely number one in the world for a reason, and I think he's going to have a good chance to win the Masters this week. So we'll see.
All right, couple of things here before I get you out of here, Mark. One is congratulations on the national championship. I know that you are a Gator, so chomp chomp. How intently were you watching this tournament run over the past month?
Yeah, I missed a few. I missed the second game where they barely eked out a win over I forget who already. But I saw most of the other ones, and I just took off my Gator shirt this morning. By the way, I had it on for a couple days. My long sleeve Gator T-shirt. I'm up in the mountains in North Carolina. And it's pretty cold out, so this is a good time for long sleeve T-shirts. But it was really cool. And my wife Brenda went to Ohio State, so now we have 2 national championships in the family with her winning the football national championship and the Gators winning the basketball. So it was the resolve those kids had. The last 3 games they were down by double digits with like 10 minutes to go in every one of the games. Against Texas Tech, I thought they were done for sure. And then Walter Clayton and Hawk just stepped up, but their whole team was great, and I loved watching it. Very, very excited for the Florida Gators.
Is Geno Auriemma the greatest coach of all time? He certainly has an argument. The championship that they just brought home this weekend, knocking off Don Staley in South Carolina, was number 12 for Geno Auriemma. And that's more than anybody has in women's coaching, in men's coaching, in any sport, at least in this country. So if we're going off of titles, you could conclude that he is the best of all time. And that is an argument that Stephen A. Smith is comfortable making.
I think it's easy to call him the greatest ever. And the reason why I feel that way is because what Andrea said, it's 4 different decades that he's done this. So let's take into account the marvelous athletes that he has had. So number 1, he recruits. Number 2, in 40 years, he's got 12 national titles. Okay. Only 1 loss in the national title game. And the success is sustainable. I mean, as times have changed, he's had to modify to some degree, but nevertheless, he's still who he is. He's never ran from anything. He's won all the time. I got to give that kind of homage to where it's due. He's the greatest ever.
No lies detected in terms of Geno's resume. 12 championships. He's been to the Final Four a couple dozen times. He's been at it for a very long time. The longevity, the success, the way that he has run the program with integrity and dignity. You can see how much his players respect him and the relationships that he has with his players. It's hard to find any fault whatsoever with Geno Auriemma, other than maybe he downplayed Caitlin Clark's chances of tearing up the WNBA. But we'll forgive you for that, Geno. Nobody is perfect. Got me thinking, though, who would be in the argument to be the greatest of all time? Of course, you got John Wooden from UCLA, who won 10 men's championships. That's the most that's ever been won on the male side of the coin. And he did it in 12 years. So 10 and 12, it's pretty fucking efficient. Pretty efficient, if you really want to look at it. Won 8 in a row at one point, if I'm not mistaken. Phil Jackson has the most in the NBA. He's got 11. Red Auerbach won 9 in 11 years with the Celtics back in the day. You look at the NFL, Belichick's got 6. That's the most. Nick Saban's got 7 at the college level. I would argue that he is the GOAT there. Major League Baseball, here's a trivia question not everybody might get. Joe McCarthy of the New York Yankees has 7, and Casey Stengel from the New York Yankees also has 7. That's the record in Major League Baseball. And Scotty Bowman has the most Stanley Cup championships as a coach in the NHL with 9. So these are the coaches that come to mind that are going to be on the short list if you're going to have a conversation of who is the greatest coach ever. There are going to be those who are going to dismiss Geno because they're going to say, well, it's the women's game. I'm not going to do that by any means, but I will say the depth in the women's game is lacking. I think it is easier to dominate. Not that it's easy to dominate, but it's easier to dominate in the women's college game, certainly, than it is in the men's college game. We see it even now in 2025 with the women's game making so many strides. You see teams in the first round that are just absolutely overmatched. Then we see a team get beat like 103-34. I don't know if it was Connecticut that did that to them. Fact check me, fellas. There was another team that scored 25 points in their first round game. You simply do not see that on the men's side in that draw. It really doesn't happen. So in the women's game, you don't have to, there's not a ton of teams that are really going to be vying for that crown. I think that you could make an argument against Geno in that area. But as I look at it, I don't know. John Wooden, it's hard to beat John Wooden. I don't know. But Geno, certainly on the very short list. And Geno talking some wisdom as well. Listen to this. Geno Auriemma on the landscape of the modern college game, the NIL, saying, hey, look, let's just be honest. Let's roll the tape.
Let's do it. You already got kids holding out, right? You already got guys playing and going, I ain't playing anymore until I get more money. So we've become professional sports. Let's say it and let's act it. Right? And let's stop the charade. The portal, how about we teach kids how to make a commitment and stick to it? All right, I get it. You want to leave. Fine. Leave. No penalties. How many times do you get a chance to leave? No penalties. Coach can leave anytime he wants. I can. I have a buyout. That's a great idea. Let's sign kids to a contract. Let's put a buy on it. Let's make it a business because that's exactly what it is. That would fix it. And let's have a salary cap, which I think this 20%, whatever it is. I think that's what it is, right? So they're getting close, but they got to start calling it what it really is and not be ashamed of it. Right? Kids aren't ashamed of it. Hey, you a student athlete? You an amateur? Yeah, I am. But you get paid a lot of money. I know. Let's not talk about that, but I like it.
Absolutely on point. College sports, at least when we're talking about basketball, we're talking about football. Look, I understand. Somebody always pops up and says, well, my child plays field hockey. All right, I understand. Your child, nobody gives a fuck about their name, image, or likeness. We get it, Mrs. Johnson, okay? But in the sports that we're talking about, that we follow, it is now professional athletics. And these kids are mercenaries, and I don't blame them. They're doing what any of us would do. They're looking for the best deal that they can get, the most money that they can make, the most play-in time they can get, whatever the equation is in their mind. But we know that they all have dollar signs in their eyes. And so would I, quite frankly. But I think Geno is right. I don't know about a salary cap. Probably down the road, you're going to be looking at one. But I do love what he said about some type of buyout so that if you transfer, you feel it a little bit. They're still going to have the freedom to go. Some other college offers you twice as much money. Well, okay, but you're going to eat part of the contract that you have with the college that you're at, that financial arrangement that you have, because it's too fucking easy. I'm really serious, and we joke about it on this program, but we are going to have guys who go to college, females too, who go to college, become a part of a program, particularly in basketball, and they're going to bounce around. They might play at 4 different schools in 4 years. And why wouldn't they if they can make more money? I'm at Texas Tech. I'm a Red Raider. I've been here for 6 months, and then somebody comes along and says, well, you'd look awfully good at Oregon. and we've got another $100,000 for you. Well, hey, guess what? Quack, quack, I'm a duck now. And I'll be the most loyal duck that you can buy for about 6 months until the season's over. And maybe I'll get into the transfer portal before the season's even over. Because by God, maybe I'm going to South Carolina now. And on and on and on. So they've got to do something to check the madness. We are in the Wild West era of NIL right now. And logic and sense and reason has not caught up yet to where we're at. Hopefully, we'll get there soon. Speaking of logic, sense, and reason, it has apparently left the state of Colorado because the Denver Nuggets did something pretty crazy. Michael Malone, the head coach, is out. An NBA champion head coach at that, just a couple of years ago. He is out, and it's not just that he's out after a successful 10-year tenure. He's the winningest coach in the history of the Nuggets franchise. He leaves Mile High with almost 500 wins as the Nuggets coach. And a week before the playoffs began, he's gone. He was like Tommy in Goodfellas. He did not see it coming. He walked into the room, they shut the door behind him, and Michael Malone is out. They also fired the general manager, Calvin Booth. I don't know the ins and outs. I can't tell you if there is something beneath the surface here that none of us know about, but I can tell you this is a team that won a championship 2 years ago, and now with 3 games left on their regular season schedule, the coach is out, the GM is out. You got to wonder what the big man Jokic is thinking. Somebody call Steve Fisher. That was a good reference for the 7 of you that got it. Do you remember 1989, Michigan, Bill Frieder? Where was he looking at going? Arizona State, if I remember. Steve Fisher, the assistant, takes over. Michigan goes on a run through the tournament, wins it all. Steve Fisher is still alive. He's 80 years old. Somebody call Steve Fisher. He might have one more in him. He knows how to get the job done. Larry Bird knew how to get the job done. This is one of my favorite recent tweets. I'm going to pat myself on the back for this one. Sometimes Larry Bird would just haul off and punch shitty white players for perpetuating stereotypes. Here's one across your lips, Mark Ivaroni. You jabroni. Larry's out there winning MVP awards, trying to remind us that not every white guy in the NBA is some stiff that averages 3 points a night. And everything that Larry did, just his every effort was being undermined by Kurt Rambis and Greg Kite and Mark Ivaroni. Just shitty. Shitty. But what the Nuggets have done is fucked up. You know, I don't know. Unless I'm missing something here, and it's going to come out later, and we find out that Michael Malone mooned the owner or something. This is a hard one for me to wrap my mind around. But they've given up on Michael Malone, and if you're wearing a pair of these sneakers, it might be fair to say that you've given up at the game of life. You know the ones I'm talking about. The official shoe of, well, I guess my hopes and dreams are behind me now. When I was a young man, I looked out on the future and I saw great potential and things that I might do one day. And now at age 48, I'm at Shoe Carnival buying a pair of New Balances. And if you can't find these, the Nike Monarchs will suffice as a replacement. You can get away with that as well. Don't mow the lawn in them. There's a lot of those that have green stains, by the way. Guys wearing black socks with them, Ron. You know what I'm talking about. Let me go now.
The other thing you have to add to that, if you want to go to the international streaming star, Ronnie T-shirt.
Well, I'm not giving you your. I just
gave it to myself
now because you just jumped in.
So,
So fine, you get no introduction today if you can't be patient and wait for it.
international streaming star, Ronnie T-shirts.
It's the
from
first
Nashville.
time I've ever heard you say it. It was almost sexual coming from you. That's what you would have said back in Columbus in the 80s when doves were crying.
Those New Balances, that's just part of the uniform. You mentioned the black socks, but you also have to mention the jeans with a T-shirt tucked in and a belt. Now that's like the complete uniform.
Yeah. No, this is very true. We all know that guy. We all know him, and we hope and pray that we don't become him. We look at our parents and we never think like, one day I'll be like them. And then you wake up and you're wearing a pair of New Balances and you don't realize where you even left the course. Yeah. You're off in the weeds somewhere. Ron, we were talking about John Morant on the show a few days ago and his shooting at people celebration that he's done. And some people saying, well, hey, he's not the first to do it. Other players have done it. But as you noted on the program, he's maybe the first to do it, at least in my memory, who got in trouble with the league and suspended for brandishing a handgun. On social media. An actual handgun. Not an air gun. And so your air artillery, your air guns take on a little different context when we know that you're liable to wave a real one around at any given moment, and it hits different. But John Morant, Ronnie, I don't know if you saw it. He has a new celebration now, apparently. He hit a three-pointer and then mimicked throwing a grenade into the crowd. He drained a three, and then he was just like firing the hole.
Yeah, he's clearly trolling the NBA now. And so I think what he should do is just every night he should do a different weapon. So like he could do like a flamethrower one night, I don't know, maybe drive a tank. Like what else could he do that's not a gun?
That's a great thought, Maybe, like a bow and arrow. You make a three and then you just boom, you just release one like Robin Hood, like Fernando Rodney used to do after he would record a save. What else is lethal? Whatever.
I mean,
maybe you could run up to a teammate and flamethrower. How would you denote that it's a flamethrower?
Well, if you just have to go slow,
like, Ron?
You just have to go slow, right? Because if it was a gun, you'd probably move it fast, but a flamethrower, you just kind of.
It would be real slow. Yeah.
Yeah.
What would it look like if Def Leppard's drummer operated a flamethrower, Ron?
It would be like this.
Oh my
like
God. That. Well, all righty then, Ron. I'm gonna make any segue that's at my disposal now.
You want me to tell you the best coach ever? The best coach ever? You want to know that?
Yes. Please tell me the best coach ever.
So I absolutely agree with you that Geno is an awesome coach. He absolutely is. But you got to factor in his competition. And if you think the competition is kind of lax right now, I mean, it was even easier 25, 30 years ago. Listen, he's playing with the cards that were dealt him, so you cannot take that away. But in my book, it's Nick Saban. Dude has 7 national championships. In college football, that's so insanely hard. And so I'm going with Nick Saban.
I'll push back and disagree with you there, even though I think Saban is the greatest. Bear Bryant's got 6, I think. Where's the separation? How many more do you have than the other people that you're competing against directly? I think is at least a fair criteria, not the only criteria. Pat Summitt has the second most in the women's game with 8, I believe. So Geno has got 50% more than her. Belichick has 50% more Super Bowls than the next coach on the list, which would be Chuck Noll, who has 4. think anybody. Walsh won 3.
Walsh?
I think Noel is the only guy who has 4. So Belichick has some distance there. Bowman has some distance in the NHL. McCarthy and Stengel both have 7. They both coached the same team. Managed the same team. So I don't think it's them. Wooden has 10, which I'm not sure who is second in the men's college game. I'm not sure if anybody else has more than 5.
Yeah, Krzyzewski
we
has
would
5,
have to get
right?
some research into that. Yeah, Coach K has 5. Rupp had 5, I believe, at Kentucky. We would have to look at it. But Calhoun won 3, I think. Yeah. But yeah, Bill Jackson with 11. But then again, how many would you and I have won if we had Michael Jordan and then we had Kobe Bryant and Shaq? Which is to take nothing away from Phil Jackson, but obviously players win championships. And I know it's a recursive relationship, and I understand that, and I understand the coach influences, particularly at the college level, who is recruited, who wants to play there, how those players develop, and so on. He has a strong argument. I would go with John Wooden, I suppose, as the greatest coach of all time in any sport, but it's a fascinating conversation to have.
Yeah, it is.
Less fascinating, perhaps, Ron, is the television ratings for the NCAA tournament. And I didn't mean to jump in there on you, but let's get the ratings up for this year's men's tournament. We were talking about the ratings for the women's tournament. They were down by over 50%, but still considerably better than they were in the BC before Caitlin era. But take a look at this. This is the most watched championship game on the men's side since 2017, which is kind of interesting because there was some gnashing of teeth that we heard during the tournament that, there aren't enough upsets. This is chalk. This is boring. This may be the first indication that NIL is going to ruin March Madness. And yet, 18.1 million viewers. So it didn't hurt the viewership, at least this year. What do you make of the fact that the ratings were actually up for a tournament that I heard more people complaining about this March Madness than probably any other that I can recall off the top of my head?
Well, I don't think the complaining would have anything to do with the ratings because you have to watch it to see what you want to complain about. So those people are already watching. So you are correct. Will it affect next year where people are like, yeah, I'm not going to watch this year because I don't think there's any more upsets. And that's why I enjoyed March Madness. So I don't really think it affects this year. I just think for me, it's the time of year I consume college basketball and I thoroughly enjoy it. And I watch almost all the games. The truth is, I do like upsets, and upsets are fun. They're fun to talk about. They're fun to text your friends about. But man, this last weekend was awesome. Like those might be 3 of the best college basketball games in the Final Four that I have seen in recent memory.
At the end of the day, we want good games. I mean, that is ultimately the most important factor.
So what I'm going to take into next year. What I'm going to take into next year, Ricky, is I really enjoyed this. I'm going to watch again because the level of basketball is so high and there aren't blowouts. Because, again, blowouts are fun after the fact. They are not fun to watch. They're fun after the fact to talk about.
For me, it's one tournament. I'm not going to draw any conclusions about NIL off of this tournament. I'm not going to draw any conclusions whatsoever. It's one tournament. I'm going to need to see a pattern to see if the play is better, if the upsets are fewer. We live in a hot take culture. People react to whatever the latest thing is that they've seen. So, let's take a deep breath. Next year, it's possible we might not have a single number 1 seed in the Final Four. Or maybe we'll go chalk again and, we'll see what the conversation is that we're having a year from now, Ron. I will tell you that there is at least one Florida fan who is fortunate to be alive to have a conversation now, next year, or any time ever This is out of hand, Ron. I want you to see this guy. He fell from a traffic light while celebrating in the madness. Take a look at this.
I mean, survival of the fittest, right?
What's the worst thing that could happen?
I mean, all I can say, I'm glad he didn't hit anybody. Like, I'm glad the only person he hurt was himself. Like,
He tried so hard to win a Darwin Award here, but we are told that he's okay. He was probably so drunk that his body was just like jelly when he hit the ground.
Yeah, he didn't brace himself.
Somebody out there, I'm sure somebody on the internet has already put the Jim Ross call when Mick Foley went off the top of the Hell in a Cell back in the late 1990s. Oh my God, he's dead. I'll be looking forward to seeing online where somebody has done that, but somehow or another his injuries weren't life-threatening, which just goes to prove that sometimes the good Lord looks over those who can't look after themselves. That was fucked up, but if you want to get really fucked up and you're on a tight budget, may I recommend Boone's Farm? I don't partake of it anymore as I can afford higher quality alcohol options now. But back in the day, let me tell you, the official beverage of I'm young, broke, and about to get super fucked up. Ron, did you consume of the Boone's Farm back in the day?
I didn't drink in high school, and so by the time I got to college, we really weren't drinking that. I've had it a few times. I can tell you, it's just so sweet. Like it's not the alcohol part of it that gets you. I think it's the sugar that gets you. For my 50th birthday, we kind of had a college theme for my 50th birthday party. You would have been invited, but I didn't know you yet. So we had wine coolers, we had Boone's Farm. We had trash can punch. We were doing keg stands with beer bongs. So yeah, we did have Boone's Farm at my party. But yeah, the sugar content is what kills you.
Hey, OutKick fans on YouTube, if you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button and make your way over to OutKick.com where you can watch the full episode.